right, everyone. It is 2:04 p.m. on this Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, and I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. Clerk Rodriguez, can you please do roll call?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Church.
Here.
Vice President Mayberry.
Here.
Trustee Nicolette.
Good afternoon.
I'm here. President Smith.
Here.
Trustee Westlake.
Here.
Trustee Woodley.
Here.
And our student representative is out. And Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right. I always like to recognize when we have important new members of our team that have joined the Washoe County School District family. And we have a new member of our board services team. She is not originally from this area, but has lived here for decades, and she is a proud graduate of Reed High School. During her time at the University of Nevada, she was a competitive gymnast and cheerleader, and she is a proud mom of both an incoming senior and an incoming kindergartner. She comes from a family of educators, and she is very excited to join them in the work with the Washoe County School District. We're so very lucky to have her. She's a part of what makes our board function. So, Nikki Goebbels, would you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you so much, Nikki, and thank you for joining our team. And now we'll move on to item 1.04, our land acknowledgement. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life. And some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We acknowledge that some of our educational structures are situated in the traditional homelands of the Washoe, Washoe, Nukmu, Northern Paiute, Niwi, Western Shoshone, and Nuwu, Southern Paiute peoples. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. These lands continue to be a gathering place for Indigenous peoples, and we recognize their deep connections to these places. We extend our appreciation for the opportunity to live and learn in their territory. And that closes section 1 and moves on now to section 2, our consent agenda items. And for my colleagues today, we have an assortment of items, 2.02 over to 2.24. I have not been alerted of any trustees' interest in pulling any items, nor do I see any lights on now. JJ, do we have public on items 2.02 to 2.24?
I have no cards for the consent agenda.
All right, well, I will bring it back to this board for discussion or possibly a motion. Trustee Woodley?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion, please. I move that the Board of Trustees approves consent agenda items 2.02 through 2.24.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Trustee Woodley, a second by Vice President Mayberry. Seeing no lights on for further conversation, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you so much, colleagues. We'll move on now to section 3. These are our items for presentation, discussion, information, and/or action. And we will start with a very exciting first item, item 3.01, the presentation of the Washoe County School District proclamation honoring the Juneteenth National Independence Day in the Washoe County School District. This is an item for presentation and discussion only. And we have today as our presenter, who I know will also introduce very important guests with us, Lanisha Battle, our Director of Equity and Diversity. Welcome up, Ms. Battle.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. To the board and all of our people who are here today, we do have quite a few people behind me today. We have the NAPKIS group is here today on behalf of the Juneteenth proclamation, and we're just going to keep things kind of moving. I am Lanisha Battle. I'm the Equity and Diversity Director for Washoe County School District. Juneteenth. I'll take the day off, but why is this a holiday? Are we celebrating slavery? When do races or ethnicities get a holiday? All these questions and a myriad of others have been asked about Juneteenth being declared a federal holiday by President Biden on June 17, 2021. Juneteenth is also referred to as Freedom Day, Emancipation Day, Jubilee Day, and Black Independence Day. President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and it went into effect January 1st, 1863. Many of those who were enslaved participated in what we refer to as the first watch night service on December 31st, 1862, as they gathered in churches and family homes to await the news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. Watch night services are still prevalent today in many African American churches to watch the new year arrive with hope and optimism for the upcoming year. On June 19, 1865, 250,000 enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas, were told that the Civil War had ended and they were now free. It took more than 2 years for all enslaved African Americans to be told they were free in a country they helped to build. People who would be killed for doing the very thing that I stand before you today to do: read, educate, and give voice to what some may see as true and uncomfortable. Slavery has always been an ugly truth in American history and continues to be debated today by scholars and educators who have differing views on how we should teach our children about a very significant part of U.S. history. More than 150 have passed since those who were enslaved were told they were free. What did freedom mean to a group of people who have been told what to do and how to do it under the penalty of violence and even death if it didn't meet a certain standard or timeline? How do the enslaved and those who own slaves interact and be their authentic selves in a country where there was a clear owner of power and privilege for so many years? Also, consider this. If you were never free, how do you, and just fill in the blanks? As a Black educated woman, I enjoy privileges that my Alabama-born grandmothers could not even dream of. My paternal grandmother, Roberta, who worked in hospitals alongside doctors who would never entertain the thought of having her in their home or even living in their neighborhoods. My maternal grandmother, Ida Mae, who only finished the 6th grade and walked to school every day and was spat on by kids who were allowed to ride the very school bus she could not. My grandmothers went further than their grandmothers could have ever imagined and were the strongest advocates I know of education. I stand here today being the direct descendant of these women as the manifestation of their wildest dreams, dating back to a generation of ancestors who were not allowed to do any of the work, activities, nor live the life that I am able to live and enjoy. Juneteenth, also referred to as a second Independence Day for the United States, is a day that we the people began to become a real idea and a beginning for those who were counted only as 3/5 of a person to be seen as human in a system that had learned to recognize those who were systemically dehumanized. Juneteenth has never been a celebration of victory or an acceptance of the way things are. Instead, it's a celebration of progress. It's an affirmation that despite the many painful parts of our history, things do get better. America can change. President Barack Obama. This quote is a call to action. It is time to do the work we ask those to do for mental health and relationships, to promote these ideas for the mental health and relationships of our country's citizens. As educators, families, community, and citizens, we must confront the ugly truth of our history and study the how and why of enslavement to avoid leaving a legacy that will have to be explained by the next generation that decide to boldly call out the injustices we have allowed or will allow to go unchecked because we choose to remain silent. As we celebrate the freedom granted to those who were enslaved, let us acknowledge the lasting and traumatic effects slavery still has on the fabric of the history of the United States, and acknowledge and esteem the ancestors of the people who are still fighting for the freedoms they were not granted when they stepped on the soil of the United States of America. So as we go forth and enjoy this holiday that we refer to as Juneteenth, let us not forget all of the bloodshed, the tears, and let us take time to also rejoice in the newness and the joy that Juneteenth means to all of our American citizens today. Thank you.
So President Smith, if I may take a point of privilege, Lenisha, your words, especially today on primary election day, I'm sure have been resounding, not only in this room, but for everybody that is watching. And it's the reason why you are in the position that you are in. And so from the superintendent's point of view, you are an outstanding individual and such an addition to our staff here at the Washoe County School District. So thank you. And with that, President Smith and members of the board, I would like to introduce two very, very special members that we have in our audience today, one of which you will know very, very well, and one of which I have known for many, many years. Mr. George Hardaway. Mr. Hardaway is a longtime community member of the Truckee Meadows and Reno community. He played football for the Nevada Wolfpack as a receiver and earned both his bachelor's and master's from the University of Nevada, Reno. While at the University of Nevada, Reno, Mr. Hardaway received the Henry Albert St. Community Service Award at the Honors Convocation, an award of one of 4 outstanding seniors. Since 1971, Mr. Hardaway worked for the Washoe County School District as a teacher, administrator, and track and field coach at Hug High School for 15 years. In his role as an educator to help hundreds of students, Mr. Hardaway has done everything in his power to help every student reach their goal and to achieve their dreams. Mr. Hardaway spent several years teaching African American history at Truckee Meadows Community College, and he was recognized by the NAACP for his pioneer Black History class taught at Hug High School in the midst of the Civil Rights Movement in the 1970s. He is a founding member of the Northern Nevada Black Cultural Awareness Society and continues to be involved in his community and understands the extreme positive power of education. Thank you, Mr. Hardaway, for your service. And Miss Dr. Angie Taylor is a Hug High School alumni and former student body president. She has multiple degrees, including a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration, Master's in Administration and Public Policy, and a PhD in Educational Leadership, all from the University of Nevada, Reno. She is also a member of the Hall of Fame at the University of Nevada, Reno for her success on the basketball. She is CEO at Guardian Quest, a company that provides equity, diversity, and unconscious bias training for national and international organizations and companies. She is a past president of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees, having served a total of 8 years. She is also a founding member of the Northern Nevada Black Cultural Awareness Society. And Dr. Taylor is the first Black woman to represent a Northern Nevada district in the Nevada Assembly. Dr. Taylor credits her mom, Connie, for her instilling the way to have a better life is through an education. Thank you, Dr. Taylor, for your service. So Mr. Hardaway and Dr. Taylor, if you all would like to say a few words, and then Trustee Woodley is going to be reading our proclamation, and we also have copies of that proclamation for you, and then our board will be doing pictures.
To the interim superintendent and the board of trustees, I am forever grateful for this proclamation and recognition. When the 9 of us sat around Dr. Angie Taylor's mother, Connie Taylor's kitchen table and put the Northern Nevada Black Culture Awareness Society together and brought forth an idea that cultural awareness and understanding and appreciation is needed in this community. I, as a resident of this community, am so grateful for this ongoing. I had no idea that 36, 37 years later, I would be standing here talking about NEPCIS, talking about Juneteenth, which on one weekend, we thought that would be the weekend of a celebration, and we would go on our merry way and forget that we came together around Dr. Taylor's mother's kitchen table and put this organization together that have definitely made an impact with students. And that's the key, students. We knew that we needed more for our students. So when you look at NEPCIS, we have supported students going on to higher education. We have supported students in the area of job employment. And it's amazing what we stand for. And I want to let all of you know that it is so important to present love and care about our students. I have always said that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. We have to care about our students. And regardless of their circumstances, regardless of their background and where they come from, they are important. When I was working in this district, one thing I knew I had to do was put young people like Angie Taylor, who I've been knowing since she was 13, 14 years old. And it's important to know that you have to be a role model and leave something for these kids. And that's why I stayed here, because I wanted to be a role model. I wanted to let them know, if I can do this, you can too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hardaway.
It is so weird being over here. It is weird. To board president, President Smith, to superintendent, and all of the trustees here on the board. First of all, just to say thank you. Thank you for taking this time at this season, this opportunity to acknowledge Juneteenth, who I am really proud to say is a state holiday for the second time coming up this year, and haven't been able to be a part of making that happen. But it's important that it's a state holiday, but it's really important that you are taking this step out front, not because you have to, but because you want to acknowledge the significance of this. When I think about the Northern Nevada Black Cultural Awareness Society and our really kind of bringing the celebration of Juneteenth here to this community 35 years ago or so, I think about the 9 founders that Mr. Hardaway, who was one of my teachers and my high school coach, by the way, back at Hug High School. I think about the fact that there were, you might want to start the clock. So just get But I think about the fact that of the 9 founders, we have Coach Hardaway, we had Alberta Rutherford, who taught at Hug High School, Ben Newsom, who was a counselor. A third of them were from the Washoe County School District. A big piece of what we did was education. And so to be able to do that and bring Juneteenth here, and then to have it come full circle 35 plus years later, and to acknowledge that is something really, really special, really special. So this board taking the opportunity to do that, thank you. Thank you, as having been the first African American to serve on this board, but not the last, right? But not the last. It means something really special from where we started to where we are on today. This district, having someone in a position like Lanisha and those who served before her, to make sure that we're acknowledging all students, right? Now, all students have a great opportunity to be the best that they can. That's good progress. That's what Juneteenth is all about. I am here because of Juneteenth. We are here celebrating something that our ancestors only dreamed about. We are their dreams come true. And the fact that you're taking the opportunity to acknowledge it, all of you, on this day, at this time, means something really special. So on behalf of all of us founders at the Northern Nevada Black Cultural Awareness Society and all of us who celebrate Juneteenth across the great state of Nevada, I just want to acknowledge your work and what you're doing, and I want to really just encourage you, keep it going. We all need to get it. When we don't celebrate and understand our history, then we are destined to repeat it. And nobody wants to go back to those times. So thank you so much. Let's come take some pictures, and I appreciate the distraction today.
And before Trustee Alex Woodley does us the honors of reading the proclamation, I did want to share something about this, because I think it is important for all of us to recognize that there is a fuller and more complete American history than many of us are ever taught or know. And it is so important to capture and acknowledge that full American history. I'm a woman in my mid-40s. I did not know Juneteenth existed until just a few years ago. I knew the story I had been taught in grade school about the Civil War, and I knew those stories, and I understood that, and I understood that that was an uncomfortable truth, but what I didn't know is that wasn't the whole truth. It wasn't until I learned about Juneteenth and understood what is this holiday that I realized that hundreds of thousands of Americans were not told they were free. And for us to really understand and love our nation, we must understand those secrets that were kept and the power that was felt when they were revealed. And it was not until Juneteenth that all Americans under our flag were free in this nation. And I am so much better now as a woman to know the full, true American history. I believe that's what we stand for here with the district. I'm so grateful to have you here. And thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to share this knowledge with everyone so that we can love and understand every chapter of our American history and the history still to come. So thank you. Thank you. And on that note, Trustee Alex Woodley, will you please do us the honors?
Thank you, Madam President. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforward shall be free. And whereas news of this declaration did not reach the frontier areas of the United States, particularly the state of Texas and other southwestern states, until June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of both the Civil War and slavery, an event now known as Juneteenth. And whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, and Liberation Day, has been celebrated annually on June 19th in various parts of the United States since 1865, symbolizing the end of slavery and representing a significant day of reflection, rejoicing, and pride in African American contributions to the history and culture of the United States. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and emphasizes education, achievement, and the continuous struggle for equality and justice, serving as a reminder of our commitment to the ongoing fight against systemic racism and for civil rights. And whereas the Washoe County School District recognizes the importance of educating our students and community about the history and significance of Juneteenth and promoting awareness and understanding of the rich cultural heritage and contributions of African American communities. And whereas dedicated to fostering an inclusive and diverse environment where all students and staff can learn, grow, and celebrate their unique backgrounds and identities. Now, therefore, I, Alex Whitley, on behalf of Krista McNeil, Interim Superintendent of the Washoe County School District, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth Day in Washoe County School District, encouraging all students, staff, and community members to observe this day by honoring the significance of Juneteenth and promoting a spirit of unity and respect for all African American cultures and histories. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for that. That closes item 3.01, and we'll move on now to item 3.02. This is the presentation and discussion to update the Washoe County School District legislative platform for the 2024 Nevada legislative session and the 2025 to 26 biennium. This is an item for presentation and discussion only, and we welcome from Pinion Public Affairs, Dylan Shaver and Tess Offerman.
Oh, the microphone button's the one with the guy talking. Thank you so much, President Smith and trustees. Again, I'm Dylan Shaver, Managing Partner at Pinion Public Affairs. Grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. Before I do, I have to acknowledge that there's other things happening apparently in the political world today. I had the honor of taking my children to their polling place this morning, and I like to take them with me to cast votes. And I can say that having been employed predominantly in Nevada politics, except for the one time I managed an ice cream parlor continuously since 1998, I have never once had the compulsion to run for office. And so on behalf of all of those of us who have the luxury to go and talk about the decisions you make and what we would have done differently from you, I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you, especially those of you who are going to be sweating it out for the next couple of, I guess let's generously say, days, and wish you all the best of luck. As you know, the Washoe County School District partnered with Pinion Public Affairs the fall of 2022. We were sort of a younger firm then, but nevertheless our values remained the same. And I want to bring those up here because there's points where they're prescient throughout the conversation we're about to have. When we built this company, we wanted to make a little bit of a difference and have a values-based government and community affairs firm, and we wanted to lead with those values as we approached all of our interactions with both clients, policymakers, members of the community, whatever. And those values are honest. We obviously only have our reputations to bank on. Pinion does not produce a widget that is better than the other widgets. All we have is the credibility that we come into any interaction with, and that's built on honesty. It's also built on thoughtfulness. We do not approach our clients with a one-size-fits-all brush, and we try and make sure that the total resources of the firm are available to everybody we represent, big or small. And finally, and this is the one that I'm going to hammer on in just a moment, intentionality. So often in this particular space, whether you're approaching the legislature or a regulatory body, what the client wants is to do a good job. And I think we see this a lot when we go through strategic planning, right? If you're not careful, a strategic plan is we want to do all the good things, but none of the bad ones. And what we at Pinion focus on is, okay, but what are our actual needs and wants, and what actions or inactions can we take to make that happen for you? And that is why we are here to talk about your platform. So today we're going to give you a little bit of background on the platform, like a refresher course, talk a little bit about what's in there now. We will go through the process for providing updates. We'll hit some major topics, what I like to call atmospherics, things that are happening outside of our control. We'll hear your conversation, take your feedback, and answer any questions you might have. So as I mentioned at the top, in the fall of 2002, when WCSD retained Pinion, one of the first things we had to set to work toward was developing WCSD's platform. You later passed that in the following December of that same year. That aligned to a sort of pattern at WCSD where you would approve your platform sort of between the November election and the following legislative session. We cautioned at the time to you that you really want more time to kind of deliver your message to we urged at the time that 2022 document be sort of a living agenda, a living platform that was sort of a more constant expression of our needs rather than something we passed right before the 23 legislature to say, for lack of a better term, money please. We wanted to, and over time, the way we envisioned it when we proposed this, and I think you appreciated at the time, was that document would then be periodically touched back on and reviewed for updates, again, to maintain a consistent through line from session to session, so that in those 18 months, remember, most of the time the legislature is not in session. They are not like you, where you're here every 2 weeks, sometimes every week if we've got HR opening or something. And the, thank you to the two of you. So we have to remember that most of the time they're not in session, but we still have needs. We still need to have conversations. And so we sort of approached drafting that winter 22 document with that in mind. And since then, there have been a number of sort of legislative things that have unfolded. We saw just most recently the SB 231 allocations for personnel, which between Dr. McNeil and Mr. Mathers over in finance was a heavy lift to just get all of that stuff taken care of and filed for the interim finance committee to release those funds so as to sort of truly make good on the contracts that you all negotiated. When approaching a platform, I say we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach, but when you're putting together a legislative platform, there are things that you want. First and foremost, it should be an approachable document. It should not be buried with technical jargon or, you know, references to weird sections of federal law or what have you. You know, the platform should be focused on kind of our end goal, that whether it's your lobbyist reading it, any of you or any of the folks sitting behind me, that they can pick it up and sort of understand what's going on. To that end, it needs to be sort of out of the weeds. We push that client platforms be strategic in nature. There are a lot of people doing a lot of different things in the education space at the legislature with other government entities and what have you. And what we push for is, yes, you know, there might be some great stuff out there that other people are doing. What we encourage you to think about are the needs of the Washoe County School District, and let the other sort of things worry about themselves. For our purposes, and one of the reasons we bring this to the trustees, is that a platform gives clear direction. We want to make sure that your superintendent, and then through your superintendent down to us, that it is clear your expectations and desires at a public policy level, if for no other reason than nobody is yelling at the superintendent, whoever they may be, for saying the wrong thing on the radio. And then finally, timely and useful. That means something that we have produced in sort of a timely fashion to spread out into the elected, to the appointed, regulatory boards and commissions, just so that they know that we are there, we're watching, what our priorities might be. With those values, we built the platform, which was distributed to you as an attachment that we are working from now. There are many things that remain a priority, right? We didn't go to we didn't show up and check everything off the platform box, and some of these things take years and years to work through. So your last platform, part of that, you wanted to embrace a truly modern educational system, and that was a lot of sort of technicality, and it's rooted, frankly, in a lot of the language of strategic planning, where we talk about, okay, we have a lot of data, is it meaningful data? It goes into talking about the reclaiming of lost resources, in particular educational time for our instructors. You also say to create space and opportunity for students to thrive. This was, and I think probably remains, an important issue. This was really born out of previous platform planks you had that talk about student mental health, SEL supports. Also, frankly, talks a little bit about classroom safety and student discipline. Strategic sustainable funding speaks for itself. I think we want to make sure that the education fund remains robust, that lawmakers don't supplant it for other projects, as we've seen happen in the past. And then finally, giving personnel the support they deserve. And this is going to sort of the biggest edit that we talk about. Your previous platform really centered on its front page a call for a minimum salary increase for personnel of 15% with a goal towards 20%. Congratulations. You made good on your word, but we do not believe you intend to send us back to Carson City with that same ask right now. If Mr. Evans is behind me, I'm so sorry, Caitlin. So we also in that plank talk about classroom safety and wasted instructional time and things like that. As we work through this process, you can see here there are many opportunities to weigh in, and I'm going to rely on Ms. Opferman to fill us in as to what those steps look like and how they've gone so far.
That sounds great. Well, thank you. I feel like I'm too close to this mic. This one's a lot louder. Yeah, I just want to give you all a sense of where we're at with our next legislative platform and where the opportunities for input are. So earlier this year, we started looking at the 2023 platform, thinking about which pieces to continue to include, which pieces need to be revised, and then we started reaching out to different individuals. So we reviewed the new strategic plan, thought about what your input was and how that needed to be included, eliminated and revised planks based on that feedback and based on what happened in 2023 during the legislative session. And then I began having, Dylan and I both began having meetings with the executive leadership team. So we went to each chief and talked to them about things that needed to be prioritized for this legislative session, if there were major fixes that we needed to be looking at, maybe we'd looked over in 2023 or we needed to focus on a little bit more. So I started compiling a document, and we have quite a bit of feedback there. Now we're at the step of getting input from you all, so thinking about the feedback that you want to give to us and what needs to be a priority for the upcoming legislative session. In terms of next steps, so we'll have feedback from you here today. We will continue to compile all of that. We will bring that back to the superintendent and to the ELT, discuss it more, and then bring that final product back to you for a final discussion. In terms of timeline, we would like to be coming back to you sometime in August. We'll need to think about the BDR for the school district. That BDR is due September 1st. So that's the first hard deadline we're looking at, which is why it's important to us to be able to finish this legislative document, this platform, before that September 1st deadline so that we know what we're going to submit as our BDR. So those are the next steps. Looks like Dylan may have feedback on that piece.
Oh, I just get paid by the word, whereas you're a salary employee. It's worth noting in terms of the timing of the platform versus the BDR itself that historically, going back several cycles, the trustees would approve the BDR prior to the platform. And so we are pushing to invert that. So it feels compressed to us because we feel like, you know, there's an order of operations to this. From you, that rush is because we're just sort of rearranging things on your calendar.
Thank you, Dylan. So that's the timeline where we're looking at. I'd like to go into a few specifics in terms of feedback that we have received. So we need to rework our call for a 20% pay raise, figure out exactly what the ask is. We won our SB 231 fight, which was a huge success. So now we need to figure out what our ask needs to be when it comes to pay and staff raises. We also need to eliminate the regional cost adjustment factor. This was a concern. It needs to continue to be addressed in the next session. We also, from a number of people, had the feedback that our platform needed to be a little bit shorter. The platform is a couple pages front and back, and so we want to look at how we can eliminate some of the words in it, shorten it, make it more streamlined for our legislators to read. And then we also need to examine class sizes. NRS is very clear about some of the targets for class sizes, but doesn't fund districts to achieve those goals. So we need to look at those funding asks and class sizes. I also want to dive into a few sort of more specific topics that came up with a number of the chiefs, because I think it's worth discussing or at least presenting those to you. You know, in our discussion, we want to keep our platform fairly high level and not be diving into the weeds on things, but there are also things that we need to really highlight and make sure those are priorities. School lunches, universal school lunches, has continued to be a conversation here at the school district. That was a major disappointment last session when the governor vetoed our school lunch bill. So that absolutely needs to be included in our legislative platform. We've also talked a lot about early childhood education, increasing funding and increased access for children. Part of that will be a discussion about the school start date. So right now it is August 1st. That's been a conversation for a couple sessions in a row, and I know that came up in a number of my meetings, is pushing that date back to either September or the end of September. I know that had been the start date in previous years a while back, and so looking at opportunities to return to that start date. And then finally, looking at chronic absenteeism, which continues to be an issue in our schools, prioritizing that in our legislative platform. The first year they start school for the start date. Okay. Back to you, Dylan. This one's you.
So, spherics, and obviously there's a lot happening across the board in Nevada politics and policy making, really starting today. I know that some of you may feel like today's a deadline, a finish line, but we will see increasingly between now and December more and more of a focus on policy. Education, of course, is always a hot button issue that people like to campaign on one way or the other. Sometimes it's complementary, sometimes it's a distraction for us. We have no control over that. There's a lot at stake this November. Governor Lombardo is fighting pretty hard to stop the opposition party from taking a 2/3 majority in both legislative houses. There's a lot of energy and resources going into campaigns, both to prevent that happening and to make that happen. At Pinion, we tell all of our clients, but certainly a public agency like you, our job is to work with the people the voters elect. I think you see a lot of these firms where people go out and get really involved in the campaign cycles and all of that. We have to have 63 different conversations in ways that you know, best represents the intentions of our clients and their specific needs. So we really try not to engage on that level. But you know, there's still a lot of pressure out there to do that, and a lot of energy going into these races on the legislative front. I think that well, probably none of them are watching, so I will say that I think all of that legislative and all that local level spending is really going to be dwarfed by just sort of national mood come October, which is not a thing we can predict or that people can run on. but those sort of D versus R races are going to be pretty contentious. I don't have to tell you the challenges of running for a nonpartisan elected seat. That's the electorate turns to sort of different shibboleths in interactions like that when they go to the polls. But all of these sort of things are feeding into an end point that could potentially be a little bit of a showdown, and the one that I've got on this slide here is just the one that we are keeping an eye on. Speaker Yeager, who runs the lower chamber of the legislature, the Assembly, was on Nevada Newsmakers about a week and a half ago, saying that he really viewed 2023 as a starting point in terms of education funding, and saw that there needed to be significant new investments. Meanwhile, the governor and to a certain extent the legislative minority have been sort of pushing harder on accountability and moving those funds out of public school districts and towards other things. We were in a interim meeting just a couple of weeks ago where a fairly senior member of the state Senate said very plainly, well, we increased our funding all that much and that didn't work. So this is good news, not a new showdown, not one that you don't have experience in dealing with in the past, but these sort of pieces are already starting to be set on the board. But like I said, our job is to work with 63 lawmakers, a handful of elected statewide executives and their teams for the best possible outcomes for your clients. So whatever you put into your platform, that is going to be the basis of all of the conversations that we have with those policymakers starting today. I don't want you to think, though, that for the last year since really the legislature ended, that we've been sort of wandering through the woods without guidance, because we did sort of put longer-term focus in the last platform. There was plenty in there, plenty of messages to be delivered, plenty of conversations to be had with regard to the needs of the organization, the needs of the institution that you had already signed off on. So if we can continue in that tradition and sort of just keep this up and maintain it as a long-ranging document, whether it is Pinion and Dr. McNeil or somebody else and Superintendent Ernst or what have you, the contents of that document are going to be position you for success in front of the legislature. Tess went a little bit over next steps, but this is your first opportunity to weigh in. If you remember last time, we sort of gave you the highlights of the process. You gave us a bunch of ideas, some of them contradictory. We did our best to work them into the document and came back and had you vote. And so this is really your first opportunity to give that feedback in a public forum. So with that, Madam President, I think we are ready to turn it back over to you and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. And this is also an opportunity for us to just kind of talk about ideas that we have, priorities we have. We're not making any decisions today. We're just kind of talking out loud about the ideas we have, the trends we'd like to consider, and then we'll have further conversations later as we actually adopt a platform. I know I have a list, but I see Clerk Rodriguez's light on, so go ahead and start us off.
Well, thank you, Madam President. I guess like for my colleagues and for her opinion, one thing that I know that kind of is a little bit challenging, especially for trustees, a lot of us work, have families, things of that nature. And I do know that one law that protects our legislators is actually NRS 218A.300, where it actually state law that employers shall and must let legislators who are employed by these employers to go and tend to do their duties. I think that might be something that perhaps not just us, but maybe other trustees or potential candidates out there that are looking for running for office have that same protection and or really privilege. So just kind of throwing out there, just a thought. So because I know that might be something that potentially could deter good candidates out there from running from office. Will my employer? Fortunately, several of us here have great employers that allow us to be flexible and to serve. So.
All right, seeing no lights on, I have a list. Do you want to go?
I can go quickly.
Yeah,
there we
no,
go.
no, go for it.
I found the button. Thank you. The one thing I pondered is the governor obviously carries a lot of weight in what he proposes. I'm hearing crickets out of the governor's office, unless I'm missing something. That audit was way back in February. Do we have any idea what he's going to be proposing?
Thank you so much for the question. Again, Dylan Shaver for the record. We do not, in terms of, if you would ask me, has anybody formally communicated to us sort of what they're working on or what that package might contain? No, that level of communication has not occurred. However, if you were to sort of look at his public commentary about education, specifically as it relates to education funding, and sort of folks close to his discussions of topics like school choice and things like that, you can sort of begin to formulate what that might look like. So while we do not know for sure, and I suspect that package really gets drafted and finalized after the election when they know what kind of majorities or minorities they're working with, we have sort of a sense of where it might go, and we're keeping a close eye on it.
And thank you for not charging a 2-drink minimum for your humor. It's always appreciated.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I appreciate your comment about sort of streamlining the document. I think that's always helpful when it's an easier document to read. When it's you can read front and back. It is kind of lengthy, but there was a lot on there. I mean, tongue in cheek, I digress. What comes to my mind is the funding specifically to special education. And so I don't want to get into the weeds. I know that's not why we're here, but I think that, I think we can all agree that given that the state has cut education, special education funding, and I've never really quite understood why that was the case. But I would hope that this body could get behind special education funding and also removing barriers for educators who may want to go into special education. Again, I'm not going to get into the nuances, but from what I understand, it's a bit of a challenge to transition from general education teachers to maybe transition into special ed, perhaps vice versa. So that's sort of where my heart is right now, is really kind of pivoting to the special ed piece, because that was lacking in the last legislative platform. State funding for, as an example, and this does get in the weeds, so I apologize for that, but again, just throwing this out. Things like perhaps state funding to retain or provide bonuses for those to stay in the special ed teaching arena, because that's a lot of the challenges that we have. So that's the discussion I wanted to have here publicly. That was a real priority to me. I didn't want to give you a litany of things, but I hope that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and I'll just say that actually did come up in a number of my meetings with ELT, and so I think that's I didn't put it on the list that I said, but it's very much in my bigger list. So I appreciate that you flagged that, and we'll continue to look at that and look at what those solutions are.
Thank you. I like the approach of continuity and continuing to develop what we worked very hard in the last session to bring forward and continuing that work. It just makes sense because what was good then truly is good now in my eyes. So to that, the unfunded mandates are an albatross, and they bog down our work. They make they take teachers, administrators away from the daily operations that can really move us forward. And if we're going to have mandates and initiatives, they need to be properly funded. And I know that this is a cry throughout our 17 school districts in the state of Nevada. No more unfunded mandates, and review and look at the mandates we have. Are they working? Do we need them? If the answer is yes, we fund them properly. If no, then we dump them and we move on. And I really believe that that also includes the class size, I will call it debacle, of how we always have to review what we're doing. Our doors are open to everyone. Sorry, we can't close them because our class sizes are too full. So we need to, that kind of rolls into that unfunded mandate. Thank you.
If I may, we really appreciate everybody's feedback here, and I want to be sort of clear about our process with this as we try and sort of approach. We listen to this conversation, we go home, we reformulate, we talk to your experts, and we put together something really fantastic. But you made the mistake of bringing up a particular soapbox of mine, and that is LCB, the Legislative Council Bureau, asks us for, somebody was a bill to do X, Y, and Z, what's it going to cost? And there is nobody in this state, and I say this without a grain of irony, that I respect like Mark Mather's ability to sort of find money and find ways to make things work. What I'd love to see LCB ask us for, but I'm thinking now perhaps we could give, without their request, the sort of a fiscal note, but for time. So something that we've sort of kicked around here before, and that folks have touched obliquely, is that there are sort of a lot of requirements put on our educators and on our administrators, and those often don't get a fiscal note. But at the end of the day, I had this conversation behind closed doors with the superintendent, but there are sometimes things they want to impose upon us that are great ideas if you had 10 minutes more in the school day to do them. And so if we sort of, I think we could sort of start to tally that as well. And I don't mean this to be just sort of opinions freewheeling song and dance in front of you today, but I just want to know, not only are we thinking about what you're doing, but it's given us other ideas.
Do you want, go ahead.
Thank you, President Smith. If we could bring up the need for greater funding for our Title I schools, for our underserved populations. We just had a conversation today about the program Team Up, where it's an after-school program, and our underserved schools, our Title I schools could benefit if that was something that was funded with that program. They help the kids with their homework, there's interaction, there's relationships developed, because a lot of the kids in the Title I schools, they go home and maybe both parents are working, no one's there to sit down and do the homework with them. No one's there to give that extra encouragement for them to attend the next day and keep them excited. It's just, I think we're only going to be as strong and we're only going to improve if we reach down here. A lot of our schools and students are doing great no matter what. We have to fund and have programs to bring this up, and that way everything improves. So I think we need to start focusing in not as the whole picture, but where are we struggling the most, and put the funds into that to help those communities. Thank you.
very quickly, Dr. Nicolette nailed it, and so I just want to back her up. I think maybe we need to look at, before we enact new laws, getting rid of some of the old ones, some of the committees at the state level that the legislature has mandated, some of the requirements, some of the testing. So I'm almost inclined to say we need to first look at what we get rid of before we look at new laws. Thanks.
And on that note, I'll go ahead and jump in. There's a lot of echoing the things that have been on my mind that I also hear from my colleagues. So someone said they didn't want a litany. I do. I have a list. So the first thing I'd like to start with is that although this metric is often completely used out of context, but we, of course, are expected to perform to a national average. We very reasonably, as a district and as a state, are expected to perform within a certain degree of success compared to other states. So something I'm very interested in is at least funding Nevada to the national average. I'm not even talking about over average. I'm just talking about average. I'd be happy to be average on that. Because if you're going to look at Nevada, and of course we're Washoe County, so our metrics thankfully are much higher than most of the Nevada metrics, but I do think that Nevada should strive towards at least being average, which seems pretty mediocre, so like I would like to think we could get there. Staying on the topic of funding, so something that I was fascinated about when I first became a trustee was learning that the state of Nevada does not fund all the weights. So just as a reminder to anybody who's following along, there's 3 weighted categories in the state of Nevada. You have gifted and talented, you have English language learners, and you have at-risk students. So most people would think, by common sense, if you had a, let's say, English language learner student who was also an at-risk student, I thought you get both weights. And this is important because a district is legally required to provide all the services that these students need. And yet, Nevada does not fund both weights or any more than one of the weights. Because what if you have a gifted and talented student who is also an English language learning student who is at risk? Again, they only get one of the weights, but yet all of our districts are legally required and morally required to provide these services, and the state expects us to provide these services, and yet they don't fund to it. So mine would be as simple as fund all the weights that a child falls into. I would also say that weights are a good way of spending because they're monitored spending. We have to be very careful in the way that we allocate those funds, and there's a lot of oversight for them because that funding follows the student at their site, which means it's a more closely monitored version of spending that I would like to think would be palatable. In addition to that, I would also be interested in the state funding to the mandated ratios. It drives me absolutely crazy that we have to file waivers every single year because we have a mandated class ratio that we are not funded to. It is a shell game. It drives me nuts. So how about that? Just simply fund to your state mandated ratios. Again, I'm on like the common sense train right now. So both of those. I'm very interested in reducing standardized testing, so taking a critical look at that, because I think that we are way too heavily leveraged on prepping for tests, taking tests, as opposed to the organic learning that should be happening in classrooms. And on that note in particular, I would like to see if there's a way to require NDE to allow iReady to take the place of MAP in K3. Moving on from that, I have an interest in replacing the ACT. So I do understand and I do absolutely agree with an 11th grade proficiency test. The issue with the ACT, the way that Nevada administers it, is that we test our kids before they've even learned the material. So why is anyone surprised about the results that we're getting? We test earlier than any state in the nation on the ACT. The states that we're compared against take this test months, if not a year and months later than our own students. Again, I do not understand the logic to that. So I am fully in support of an 11th grade proficiency test or metric, but just not the ACT, because we're never going to get out of a cycle of our headlines on performance if we know that we are testing students on things that they have never learned. Moving on from that, definitely a fan of universal school lunches. Something that I'd also like to see, and I don't know if this is legislative or not, so this might be something staff or somebody has to educate me on, but I don't like that absenteeism is part of star ratings. So I definitely think performance should be a part of star ratings, but when you look at the inequities at schools that have a high degree of transitionary students in the schools or at-risk students, they're getting hit on that quite a bit, that their academic performance, all of their metrics actually are at a higher star rating, but because of the absenteeism for students that may not even be there anymore, really brings them down. And I am by no means saying that absenteeism isn't important, because it's very important. But what I'm saying is that if you're going to rate academic success and you're going to be looking at things like SBACs, MAPs, all those things, why would you consider that in it? It just doesn't have a place. And it also particularly bothers me because we know that our charter schools are able to move students out that have absenteeism issues, and then there's no room at the inn for them because they can't come back to those schools. So they can offload those students. And obviously we don't do that in true public education. And then I also have an issue with the star ratings because it does ding the schools from parents who opt out of SBAC. And that should be a parent's right to opt out of those things. So the fact that the state dings those schools for a parent exercising their right to opt out, I think is a fundamental flaw. So I have an issue with that. And then lastly, I won't get into the weeds too much on many of these, but I do have an interest in AB 219, and that's something that was recently brought to my attention. And it requires that there has to be an assessment to determine a school's corrective action status for English language learning. So in elementary and middle school, they use SBAC as that validation testing. That's in addition to the tests that students do to test out of English language learning. But in high school, they connect that to the ACT. And that really doesn't make any sense because that's only for 11th graders, and that's really not a proper metric. So why that is assigned as the assessment metric for English language learners in high school genuinely doesn't make any sense. And the suggestion that's been made to me is that it should be broadened to allow for end of course exams for that. So that's a little bit more in the weeds. But those are just some of the things that I wanted to bring attention to. There's obviously a lot of opportunity for improvement. I echo what some of my colleagues have said about reducing some of the administrative burden, because there's no way anybody's looking at all of these reports that we've been generating from laws that were passed 20, 25, 30 years ago. So, so that's just it for now.
And another thing.
Thank you.
I can't top that. But I do want to add, because I thought this might be on your list, President Smith. I took some notes here. And I think, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I'm pretty confident I can, because we have 7 charter schools in this district that we support and are part of our family. But I do think that with respect to the other side of that, I'd like to see us consider more of a robust process for charter approval by the state. One that perhaps in Nevada's, the public funds are spent on Nevada students, and one with actual findings and not some arbitrary subjective language when the charter agency, State Charter Association approves new charter schools. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
President Thank you. I just have a question. Initially, I wanted to, Dr. Nicolette hit on it with regards to unfunded mandates, but you, Dylan, really brought it home because the issue and concern that I've heard from teachers has been, you know, we get these mandates, where's the time? So thank you for going deep into that because that is something that we should have to assess throughout any BDR or anything that comes from the state. That should be a part in there for that. I did have one question. Does every school district get one BDR?
Thank you for the question. Yes, all school districts get one BDR. It was our hope going into this interim that our own superintendent would coordinate with their colleagues to kind of introduce that as a broader education package. I'm sure you noticed that we're not ending this interim with the same superintendent we started with. And so it was just, I just from a outside sort of strategic perspective, I still think that would be kind of a great direction to go in. Most of the rural districts don't use their BDRs. And I think that if the superintendents could come around on 4 or 5 key proposals and introduce them like that, they'd be of tremendous value.
Thank you. That was exactly what my thought was. Thank you.
Well, Clark gets 2, don't they?
I was going to say, for the record, just for clarification, Clark County does get 2 BDRs. Every other county gets 1. So they just divide it by population. So if the county has more than 700,000 people, that county gets 2 BDRs for the school district. So just for record clarification.
Yeah. I have to ask the general counsel to make eye contact with me real quick. Opinion as generally sort of a standing policy on our side anyhow, that trustees can contact us at any time. We do not take conversations from individual trustees as direction. However, if you have ideas that you brought up here today and you feel like it requires a little more Q&A, a little more back and forth, we are happy to do that. I don't want anybody to feel like they're being restricted from us, as long as Neil tells me that's okay. When we do hear from a trustee directly on any topic, just as a matter of course, we do inform the superintendent that communication occurred. Just so that everything's on the up and up from a governance standpoint, but also we understand that, you know, not every single idea you've ever had about the upcoming legislative session is going to happen right this second.
Yeah, I think that'll be ultimately a decision for the next superintendent on how he wants communication to go. But I think under at least my experience with Dr. McNeil is that she should be informed on all conversations and kept in the loop. That's what I do with her. So.
Because as a point of clarification, that relationship is actually held between whoever sits in the seat of superintendent with our legislative representatives.
And then obviously you know not to take a group call or anything of that nature from the trustees. And
with the exception of the weekly poker game I have with all 7 of them, noted.
Okay, I said I'm not invited now, but
we thought you'd be mad.
All right. Well, seeing no other lights on, I want to thank all my colleagues for this conversation, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. It's a different process than when we did this 2 years ago, but I think we've moved a lot individually and as a group, so I'm very excited to see what that turns into in terms of a legislative platform and then also a BDR, and how we can be of support of other legislators that are interested in positive growth in public education. So thank you.
Thank you again for the opportunity, and have a wonderful afternoon. Good luck to everybody tonight.
Thank you. All right, everyone, so that closes item 3.02 and section 3 in its entirety. And so, JJ, we're going to do things just a little bit differently in light of the fact that today is a very important day with our democracy. I do want to make sure that the members of our public have the opportunity to speak in case they need to be other places at a certain point or still in time to cast a vote. So we will go ahead and pause and come back to section 4 and move down to section 5, and I will open item 5.01, our public comment.
Teodora Aranda.
Hello, Teodora. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors or Trustees, Madam President, Vice President, and the Principal. I am a resident of 1185 Cordone Avenue and at the back of Vaughan Middle School. I'm here to discuss or give my opinion about building the 3 stories of the Vaughan Middle School. I got nothing against with it, but reconsider also our privacy. It is close to my house, and there is a space in the middle school way on the other side close to Yori, which is they don't use it. Maybe I can suggest that maybe you can do the 3-story there to build build a school story, whatever you're gonna call it. I got nothing against with it because it will benefit the students. Because I also my kids graduated in Vaughan Middle School, so please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Eva Huntley.
Welcome, Ms. Hutney. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for everyone for giving us this opportunity to speak. I also live right behind Vaughan Middle School. When I first moved in, I had to take in some considerations of the school. We were going to put a below-ground pool, and we were told that because the school was there and the fence was there, kids jumping over, we would be legally responsible for any kids getting drowned or damaged or hurt in that. So we did an above ground. I also had where kids were coming over the fence because it wasn't high enough, coming over the fence to cut through to go to Burger King and everything through our yard, which then again too was the pool there. So I built a higher fence. My husband and I, we made a higher fence. Now, with that having us making that adjustment, now with them wanting to do the building right behind us, there goes our privacy. There goes any opportunity of us being in our yards comfortably, because I'm going to be honest, I'm a nudist, and I will be in my pool sometime without clothes, and then that means students going to be looking down on me. That's not really good for me on that. Also, we're building an addition to our home on the back end, which is going to be a glass on our opening for our master primary bedroom. There again, students are going to be able to look in, and not always do we have our curtains closed. So I'm asking that you revisit the location of the building, and maybe like Doris did indicate, put it on the other end to where they're overlooking the street. And where the football field is said to be, that building can go there. And then we can still have our privacy that we like to have in our backyards, so that we don't have to feel that we're being offending. Someone's parent said, oh, my child saw this. So I'm asking once again to protect the children and to protect us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hutney.
O.C. Huntley.
Welcome, Mr. Hutton. Is it Hutton or Hutney?
Huntley.
Huntley. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for taking our voice in. We've been living in the house about almost 30 years. We bought the house. It was nice, quiet. They built it up. They said to go put some things in the school area, which was great. It was all for it. Pay the taxes. Then they put the field in. Then they built a building behind us. It's right behind us. I said, okay, it's still getting too close. Now they're going to make the building even closer where kids can look right over. We have a fence that we just rebuilt, and then we have trees. What are they going to do about the trees? What are they going to do about the buildings that's going to be right behind us? That means when a boring kid gets bored looking in class, they can just look over into our yard. And I have swimming pool and hot tub and a few other things that other people do not have. And we don't want things to be taken, stolen, or kids to come over and jump in our fence because they've seen certain things in our yard. We travel quite a bit, and quite naturally you see that I have no legs, but I still get around. I have a scooter and I have a car to get back and forth to the doctor. I don't depend on no one to take me anywhere unless my wife wants to go here, there, or whatever. But a lot of times our house is by ourselves. Now with this open like this, people will be able to see that there's no one there, no movement, and we don't want nothing to happen to our house while we're gone. So if we can move it, like they said, to the other side, and we didn't even get a notice saying that this was happening. You know, and all three of us live right among ourselves, and the next person's going to come up, live right next to us, and we didn't get no notice until last week. I didn't notice until yesterday that this was happening. And this morning, guys was in our area, working on the yard up there, and machinery going off. I said, "What the hell going on here?" And they said, "Well, we're getting ready to rebuild." So I said, "Build what?" So that's what we said. It was a surprising act, you know. If they want to repave, we're right there for that. If they want to rebuild this, it's nothing about it. But they cannot do that if they can help it. If they can move it and move the building somewhere else, or what they going to do about the trees in the building and the kids looking into our yard? Are they going to put some kind of barrier up there for us to keep them from looking in our yards? Or, you know what I'm saying? That's the main thing. I bought this place almost 30 years ago for the privacy, not for people looking in and changes. We made a change, my wife said, by putting another fence in the yard up there so that the kids wouldn't come over. And we went and talked to the vice principal and the principal about kids jumping over. They tried to do a little bit about it. So we won't be able to keep the eyes from in there because, like I said, we like our privacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huntley.
You're welcome.
Maria España Jimenez.
Welcome, Ms. Jimenez.
Hello. Hi, my name is Maria, and I am a Sparks High alumni, and we are here to request with other students, and hi, Adam. I've been emailing Adam back and forth. We are requesting that we increase the number of tickets allotted for our class. Our graduating class of tomorrow is 264, which is way under what everybody else in the area has. We want that because our students are already mentioning the fact that it's going to feel a little bit empty at Lawler, considering the other schools that are graduating before and after them have that much more capacity. I do understand there are safety concerns, there's traffic concerns, but our student body population is only 1,200 at Sparks High at the moment, so we will never have a class as big as people like North Valleys or we just ask that we get a little more than 10 tickets, maybe 15 per student, so that we can all bring our families. Most of us are first generation immigrants that this is our kids, this is our chance to bring our parents and grandparents to see what we accomplished because of their sacrifices. So that's the request. We hope that you guys can take that into consideration and give us, for future high school graduations from Sparks High, a little bit more leeway on that. I did talk with the principal and I asked her, like, hey, you know, how can we get more tickets? And she said, you know, it's a Washoe County thing. I was like, that's okay, that's fine, and I understand. I could see that for a class of 500, that's 5,000 people. So, but we are just a very small fish in a very large pond that Washoe County is. So we just want to see if you guys would at least consider that for us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Noelle Lanter.
Welcome, Ms. Lanter.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the council. I am a resident of 1165 Cordone Avenue, and although with some hopes of maintaining our privacy from hundreds of middle schoolers looking into our backyards, there's a deeper issue at hand. The means of notification is a tiny blue card that could get lost in the coupons, or a sign on a road that none of us drive down, and a notice in a newspaper that nobody reads anymore is by far outdated. Sorry, I'm shaking. Outdated way to inform people of a 3-story building that takes all of our sleep starting at 7 a.m. for years, our privacy, our gardens, our property values, and there are some pictures that were included for you guys, but I want you to note that there will be no leaves on those trees. And the fact that none of us saw this notice points out there's a problem that we need to, as we expand our cities, and people are uneducated about the school's exemptions on heights, upset people with broken hearts will show last minute at your board meetings when it's all too late too often. And as the elected officials, I hope you can take mercy and listen to our ideas for a solution. Although the allotted time for the outdated laws have passed, I would encourage you to work with me and the city council to upgrade the way that we inform individuals in order to stop your inconvenience and our heartbreak.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lanter.
Robert Clarkson.
Welcome, Mr. Clarkson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'd like to express my gratitude for all of your commitment and service to the community. I personally served on a board of directors for a private school here in the community for about 15 years. I understand the challenges. My name's Bob Clarkson. My family and I reside at 1165 Cordone Avenue in District D. We are 4th generation Renoites. 3 of our children graduated Vaughn Middle School, and our 4th son, Moby, is currently enrolled. On Thursday, June 6, this last Thursday, Moby returned home from school with exciting news that Vaughn was going to rebuild it over this summer. After a quick internet search, we were shocked to see the size and scope of the project. Even more shocked that this was the first we'd heard of it. Friday, June 7th, the next day, I paid a visit to the city planner office, where I was informed that schools are mostly exempt from plan review provided all codes are met. I was further informed that the Vaughn Middle School project had been reviewed, PRE 24/0009, under head planner Lee Picotti's oversight. Ms. Picotti informed me that the plan was approved as there was no public outcry and legal codes were met. She was apologetic and agreed that the oversight and infringement of privacy should have been addressed, but that was neither her job nor responsibility. Our family has biodynamically farmed our 3rd acre parcel since owning the property. We live a true farm-to-table life, enjoying 30 to 40% of our fruits, vegetables, eggs, and poultry coming directly from our land. Moby even farms some of the finest escargot. To erect a 45-foot wall directly west of our main garden will drastically reduce the hours of sun required for the health of our crops and animals. Furthermore, the planned building will be a complete invasion of the privacy of our home and garden. A 3-story building directly adjacent to our rear property line will have a negative impact on our value and way of life. The proximity of the tallest building in the planned construction to our home has massive potential to aggravate property damage, theft, and vandalism, all of which we presently endure at street level in the front of our residence from students walking to and from school. Please see the attached photos that we took with a drone approximating the view of our backyards as will be viewed by teachers and students in that building. The Vaughn property has 3 property lines adjacent to city streets and property frontage. A building of this size should not be adjacent to residential backyards. We appreciate our school board and understand that you're elected to keep projects and proposals up to the standard laws and codes, but you're also elected to protect their incumbents' rights as citizens, which is of the utmost importance as well. We need you to protect us from this highly invasive building that has a potential to shadow our home and lives forever. Please
Thank you.
suspend construction until an
Thank you
alternative
very much,
plan is
Mr.
ethically
Clarkson.
based.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
You have copies.
No,
Sorry,
yes.
ran long.
No, you're fine. Thank you so much. The buzzer didn't go off, but it was the 3 minutes. But thank you so much for that, and thank you for these photos.
Cliff Nellis.
Welcome, Mr. Nellis. JJ, can we make sure that there's the proper noticing on the timer so that our speakers are also aware?
Hello, Cliff Nellis. Good to see you guys again.
Hold on one moment.
yes,
JJ's just going to reset
ready to go.
Yeah, just
Okay.
one moment. We're just doing a quick reboot on the tracking and timing system, Mr. Nellis.
Okay.
Pardon me.
Okay. Yes,
Thank
I'm
you
here
so
to support Trustee Church. I heard that these ethics violations are still being considered. I mean, hasn't this been canceled? I mean, knowing that it's just a political witch hunt? Or is it still going on? If it's still going on, then we need to cancel it. Either that or we need to have a concurrent hearing for the other trustee that is accused of plotting the whole thing. So, I mean, one or the other. Maybe we can make peace and just cancel the whole thing. So that's all I have to say on that. And on the Vaughn Middle School thing, I hear you guys got a 5G tower there. You have a microwave tower there? Those shouldn't be anywhere near schools. Are you moving that tower completely off the school property? Did you know that a cell phone works at 20 microwatts? You know how much is coming out of that tower? 20 milliwatts or more, according to a meter that I have, which is over 1,000 times the amount. And so you're subjecting the students to microwave radiation every day. I think you should probably cancel the whole project and then make sure that tower is moved somewhere, like at a commercial industrial area or something like that. No, it's just a little extra comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nellis.
Victoria Meyer.
Welcome, Ms. Meyer.
Victoria Meyer, for the record. Yeah, I just heard about this ethics complaint or something. I'm hoping that this kind of stuff can cease with this school board. Certainly if I get on the board, things are going to change. Vaughn Middle School, I just heard about this too. You're going to put a building without notice, right? Towering over people's backyards. That seems a little outrageous, especially since the residents didn't get notice. We had a lot of growth in my neighborhood at one point. Open spaces being filled in and crowded, and it's not fun being a resident when you're a long-term resident and to have to face these kinds of things. I'm sure that you guys can do better. I like the tickets for the graduation. My grandson's graduating this year, and yeah, we got limited tickets. And you know, when you get large families, it would be great. That's a great idea they had. If you guys could maybe give a few more tickets than 10 to the families, that would really be appreciated, so we can get more people included in those graduations. And then the board president mentioned ACT tests, and I'm looking here, you know, for juniors, ACT testing happened on September 9th, test date October 20th, 23, December 9th, 23, February 10th, 24, April 13th, 2024, and there's 2 more opportunities, June 8th and July 3rd. So that is incorrect that a student in the junior high, in the junior year, can only take the ACT at the beginning of the year before they've learned anything. So I count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 opportunities. So I'm not sure why you want to get rid of ACT testing as a standard test, but it's just not true that they only take it in the fall. Thanks, Victoria Meyer.
The superintendent's going to provide a clarification on that.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. So just so that you know, our juniors do have the one opportunity to take it their junior year. If they want to take it during their senior year again, that's when they follow up with the multiple opportunities.
That's from your website, and it shows junior year. So maybe you have some misinformation on the website. That's right from your website I just read.
Thank you.
The board received an email from Ocean Davies.
Wonderful. Thank you all. That now closes item 5.01 and brings us back now to section 4 for our board reports. We are in our summer period since school has just completed, and so our student representative is not with us at the moment. We will have a new student representative joining us starting in July. So we will go ahead and move past item 4.01 and move on now to item 4.02, board reports. And we'll go ahead and start with Trustee Colleen Westlake.
Thank you, President Smith. I do have some pictures. Some of them, the quality is not very good. I'm not a great photographer. This was at Robert Mitchell, where we did the grad walk with Sparks High, and we had one Reed graduate, going to be graduate, and they walked the halls of Robert Mitchell, and the kids are cheering, and there's music, and it's just so much fun. It's really a joyous occasion. And this was me with our colleagues, and this was at the Inspire and Turning Point graduation. And it was just really nice, very quaint, small, but I mean, it's just very uplifting. And another graduation, this was Gerlach's graduation, and it's always, the people in Gerlach, they're just so hospitable and so nice. There was one student graduating, and she was just darling. She's right there in the middle, and it was just really, really a nice graduation. Oh, I don't know what that is. The video? I think that one picture, oh, yeah, this is, so this is where my photography gets a little sketchy. But this was at Catherine Den, that's Principal Fannin in front. There, the unicorn. And it was so hilarious. I mean, they're in these big blow-up costumes, and it just is so fun. So fun. And the kids they were laughing and enjoyed the whole time. And it's nice to see, I'll tell you, our administrators and our teachers, they just want to go the extra mile to give the kids a great time. I also visited Galena High School and met with Principal Salter to discuss the outdoor campus, which is really an interesting idea. It's just taking the classroom outside and just giving the students a different perspective. And some kids, it's just to sit in a classroom all along, it's really hard on their mental capacity, and you get them outside and it's just a whole different environment. I also had the opportunity to be a judge for the Brown Elementary School Science Fair, and some of these projects were amazing. I mean, one student, and I think it was 4th grade, it was all on plastics. I mean, it was so interesting. And I think that picture actually with my colleagues, I believe, was at TMCC High School, and it's always wonderful to be on that campus. I attended Sun Valley Elementary School Field Day, and that was really fun and nice. They did take a picture with a drone of everyone, all the students. So I think they were going to get that in the paper, but I hope people have a chance to see it. It's a wonderful school. I just love Sun Valley Elementary School. And that was it. Thank you.
Trustee Woodley, if you could pause, I'm actually going to go to Vice President Mayberry and then come back to you.
My apologies. Thank you for that, Trustee Woodley. Yeah, I got a few pictures too, and I'll do this fairly quickly. I just sort of wanted to celebrate our students in my board report. That's a nice picture, by the way, that I'm not in. So just to kind of piggyback, yeah, okay, this is fun. I take no responsibility for these clowns, but this was a water spray at Lois Allen Elementary by these firefighters marking the end of the year, and it was a lot of fun. You could hear their laughter. We're watering the grass, by the way, so it's we're not letting the water go to waste. Let's see, what do you have next for me there, JJ? I'm mindful of my 3 minutes. It's okay. We're good. Oh, it's okay. This, just to sort of piggyback on Trustee Westlake, this is a 5th grade science fair at Brown Elementary for 5th graders, and man, I'm glad I'm not a 5th grader anymore, because these were some amazing projects. Which brand of chocolates melt the fastest? Next slide, you can just see the data that they used. Next slide, and you could see a lengthy conclusion, the evidence, and this is another project. This one caught my eye. I think all of us could learn from this. Does listening to one type of music lower heart rate more than another? And so the hypothesis here was they think the classical music lowers your heart rate, which would make sense. But in fact, they concluded, based on the data on the left, that no, listening to one type of music does not lower your heart rate more than another type of music, but classical music increases your heart rate the least. So good to know, good to know. Flowers, what effect of different liquids on flowers? You can see a lot of experiments. This student believes that flowers and water, bleach, and lemon juice will last the longest, when in fact the conclusion was that the flower that lasted the longest was the flower with the flower packet provided. So if you get a set of flowers from your local florist, make sure you use the packets. And then if I have enough time, I have one more short video. I think are we going to be okay? Probably not. We'll get as far as we can.
Well, that's okay. We're having an administrative thing. We can pause the time while we look up the file.
Okay,
that's
fair
okay.
enough. Thank you.
There's technical
by the
searching
rules.
doesn't count.
You know what? It's not a big deal. It was a short video. It was a short video on the projects out at Marcy Hurst, the passion projects. Thank you. Trustee Church was there as well. I think Superintendent McNeil and Nicolette were there. And so this was the final day, and the video is this student who has a Rubik's Cube. Remember, if you're a child from the 80s, a Rubik's Cube? I mixed that cube up multiple times. He was able to put it back all sides. Unbelievable. I didn't think, I only had seen that on TV. I didn't know if that actually could have happened by a 6th grader. So just amazing stuff out there. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful summer.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll start. Mine isn't that long. I've been preoccupied with some other stuff going on, but I did have last week, we had our quarterly meeting for the NIAA. We did identify, and we have hired a new executive director by the name of Tim Jackson. Donnie Nelson, he will be retiring the next week or two, and he's provided us 28 years of service, so congratulations to him in his retirement. We had 37 items on the agenda. It's a 2-day meeting every quarter. The biggest agenda item that we discussed and handled was the ability to approve an amendment, a proposed amendment to the NAC that relates to waivers for first-time transfer students. So regardless of what year they're in, The intent and the proposal is to provide a one-time free transfer to whichever school that they choose. So that's a very good thing. Also, I had the opportunity to visit high school, Reed High School. I was invited to see some signing of some students that have committed to colleges through sports. They got scholarships, and it was well over 20 different students that were signing. And that was just in one school. So we've got some great athletic students here in Washoe County School District. That was beautiful to watch. And then lastly, I had a couple opportunities to meet with Senator Rosen. In one of those opportunities, I was with Joe Rodriguez, our fellow trustee, who cornered me and told me, come on, we got to go talk to her. We're going to corner her and make sure that she takes back to Washington, D.C., support for our school district with regards to meals for our kids. Yeah. So I was Trustee Rodriguez and made sure to hold her accountable for that, to which she said that she will support us. So thank you.
I was napping. All right. Like others, I attended a number of graduations this past week and many more. I will admit Marvin Piccolo is my favorite. Sorry for the others, but it's just so rewarding, the special needs kids receiving their diplomas, and Dr. Nicolette was there, and it was just a wonderful experience. In terms of the judging, I did that too, and regardless of heart rate, I'm going to continue to listen to the Doors and the Rolling Stones. And also I listen to my San Diego Padres. That will make your heart rate go way, way up. On a different issue, on the negative, we had a great meeting today, very polite, but there were some mentions of public comment. At a recent event on a school property, in front of a group of people that we were judging, an individual, a high-ranking individual with another local government agency, called me out in front of the others, accused me of making written statements against him. I don't know the guy from Adam, couldn't pick him out of a crowd of two, no idea what he's talking about, but the damage was done. Turns out it was mistaken identity. I don't get an apology, but to everybody in the group, you know, another target on Jeff's back and another accusation that's not true. And so I'm self-reporting that for all those people that were there and told their friends and told their friends. Along those same lines, I want to self-report that there was because it was mentioned of it earlier, a complaint against me in terms of the Nevada Commission of Ethics by an anonymous individual. I don't believe it should be anonymous. I don't know if any government resources were used, but whoever makes the complaint should be made public. And I'm willing to release that complaint to the public, to the media upon request. It is in re Jeffrey Church, trustee, Washoe County School District, complaint number 24046C. And it's confidential, but since it's against me, I believe it's within my authority to release that. So I wanted to publicly disclose that. Again, right here at election time, you know, it comes out. So those are the two negatives I want to put on the record, but we had a wonderful meeting today. Very polite, very professional. Loved the Juneteenth presentation. Angie Taylor, it's always wonderful to see her and her mom that supports her so much. Not Angie Taylor. We may disagree on things, but what a wonderful human being, and to see her and her mom here is just a wonderful experience. And Angie, if you're out there, come back anytime. You're welcome. So thank you very much.
Yeah, pretty much Trustee Westlake and Trustee Woody kind of took the thunder or the wind out of my sails. Been out and about, but the highlights was attending the Gerlach graduation. It's always one of my favorites as well. Wonderful community. I attended that with Trustee Westlake and Trustee Dye and Beth and President Smith and our superintendent. So that was awesome. And yeah, it was I did attend a community leaders meeting with Trustee Woodley, with Senator Rosen, and I'm always going to advocate for our school when I get an opportunity to. And that's pretty much really it. Looking forward to future graduations this week.
This is a busy, fun time of year. Many graduations, many activities. I have participated in elementary, middle, and high school activities. I'm not going to go through the list. I'm going to take a little different approach. So far, I've attended all the graduations that we're invited to, and I look forward to, I think, 15 more. Anyway, still looking forward to the fun, and that's a fact. I do want to give a highlight for the Early Childhood Advisory Council. I sit on that council at the state level. It's a governor appointed position. And I think it's good business for me to tell you what we're working on. We have 5 goals. Number 1 is to create a coordinated early childhood leadership infrastructure. Early childhood is here. It's not going anywhere. We have embraced the knowledge that the early years are extremely important. Our goal 2 is to increase coordination and alignment between all the systems of care for young children and families that are operating throughout the state of Nevada. Goal 3, increase capacity to equitably connect families with the early childhood system, which is a continuum of care. So many wonderful agencies involved throughout the state. Goal 4, identify budget and finance strategies to drive policy goals and objectives. And number 5 is to execute data collection. Always got to have that data so our decisions are based on solid information so that we can increase equity and ensure accountability. I attended a NASB, Nevada Association of School Board members, all 17 school districts, on a public records request training, and I will tell you that I learned a little bit here and there. It was worth every moment of my time, and I do want to thank our Washoe County School District General Counsel group of experts, because the majority of information they have shared throughout the years, and it was really good to know that I learned a little bit, but I already know a whole bunch, and thank you for that. I attended the Education Alliance. Let me see. It was, I met the new ED for Education Alliance. I attended the Indy Talks, and I will end on this note, is that I was very impressed. John Ralston came up from Las Vegas, and he hosted the Airport Authority, ED, EDON Authority, ED, and the Reno Sparks Convention Center executive directors. All 3 of them, what I walked away with, no more siloing. We're going to work together for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, JG, before my time starts, can you tee up my photo? Awesome. It's not my first thing, but I just wanted to get it up and ready. All right. Okay, so I really enjoyed my visit to Gerlach K-12 with Vice President Mayberry and Trustees Nicolette, Westlake, and Rodriguez to give out the first diploma of the year in 2024. Participated with the TMCC High School and Marvin Piccolo graduations, along with the Jesse Beck Dual Language Program 5th grade graduation, and then the Hunter Lake and Huffaker Elementary School kindergarten graduations, which are favorites of mine. Also participated in a Moms Demand Action event to bring awareness to that. And then the photo that you see here is from Saturday, officially at Damani Ranch High School. We have the John Polson Field, and that was a really exciting moment to celebrate Mr. Polson, Coach Polson, in his 20 years of service. He's really a model for us and for the community, so it was a truly special time. And now I would like to bring attention to and share that June is Pride Month, and it is important for me to be clear and strong in my support for our LGBTQ+ students, staff, and community members. I believe that who you love and how you show up in the experience of love deserves respect and acceptance. And for those of you who are wondering, why does this matter? I have some information for you. According to the Trevor Project's 2023 U.S. National Survey on the mental health of LGBTQ young people, 41% of LGBTQ young people seriously considered suicide in the past year, and 14% did attempt it. A majority of LGBT young people reported being verbally harassed at school. Nearly 2 in 3 LGBTQ plus young people said hearing about potential bans against discussing LGBTQ people at school made their mental health a lot worse. And so everyone, this is where our work sits. It really does. LGBTQ plus children and adults deserve authentic affirmation, and they should feel safe to show up as their full, true selves in their classrooms and organizations. And for those who are not a member of the LGBTQ plus community like me, Pride Month is also a time for you to develop your allyship. And it's okay to not understand what this is all about. This is an opportunity to learn from reputable sources like the Human Rights Campaign. And so the truth is that we all have things about us that are considered different, and we all benefit when we practice inclusion, respect, and kindness. So happy Pride. Thank you.
I did find Trustee Mayberry's other video.
We should definitely play it because he had time left on the clock. That was a technical error.
If you guys want, but yeah. Thank you. It's not about me. It's about this young man, sixth grader named Henry. So watch him how he puts together a Rubik's Cube right here. Look at this. I was pretty proud when I did one side. That's all I could do, one side. Remember that? Yeah, that was like amazing. I can do one side. And he does all of them here. He's got the black device on the table is a timer. So this is called cubing, I guess is the thing, you know. There it is. His brother, Chris, is an eighth grader at the same school, and he was on the other side of the room, and he was, his passion project is rockets, so he's going to NASA. Really amazing group of students, yeah.
Amazing. All right, everyone, so
Thank
that
you.
closes item 4.02. I am so glad we played that. And now we'll move on to item 4.03, our interim superintendent's report.
I feel like my report is so boring compared to that and to Beth's beautiful, beautiful message on Pride, and I thank you for that. That means a lot. I'm not going to, I was there with all of you doing a lot of different things, and I do want to highlight we have Miss Ivy sitting out in our very large audience right here, and she is a former student representative and just stellar and such an advocate for the student's voice. Mr. Ernst and I have been continuing our transition. It has been going very, very well, as all of you know, and I'm looking forward to continuing with that transition. Mr. Ernst has come full board, leaning in, almost like totally. There you go. Yeah, he is leaning into this. And so bless his heart for that. And then just a fabulous week coming up with all of our graduations. And I want to send a special thank you to Miss Vanjie Russell, who takes her time, puts literally her blood, sweat, and tears into these graduations to make them run as smoothly as possible. And congratulations to all of our staff, all of our principals at our high school, and most notably our graduates for all the work that they have done to get to this point in their educational journey. There you go.
All right. So that closes item 4.03 and section 4 in its entirety, and we will go back to the previously open section 5. We have already done item 5.01, public comment, and that brings us to item 5.02, our next meeting announcement. That's June 25th, 2024. And now 5:03, adjournment at 4:08. Thanks all so much.